Welcome to the Love Sessions. I'm Nori, and my amazing, beautiful, sparkly co-host is Lily. Hi, Lil.
Hey, Nori, sparkly Nori.
Yay! Thank you, thank you. So, Love Sessions number 22. Dun dun dun
Dun
dun.
dun dun.
These are so much fun.
They are
Bringing love back to you.
always.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because, somebody had mentioned to me that they thought the love sessions was just, romantic relationship advice, and it's so regrettable that they think
Oh,
that.
yeah, that is true. That is true. I mean, it is about the most important relationship you'll ever have, but it's
Yeah.
the one with yourself.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
probably not regrettable too. It's just we have to package the love sessions up in a way that people know
Mm-hmm.
that it's bringing love back to you, and it's all about, and it's so not selfish. It's so not selfish to bring love back to you first.
No, no. Actually, it's the opposite
It
because you
is.
you can't give love if you don't have it within you. You have to give it to yourself first and build it up within yourself before you can give it to other people.
And the classic saying, you can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Exactly.
I mean, and I can think of times where I tried to, just exhausted, tried to do too much, in another area, and it doesn't go well. It doesn't go well if you don't take care of yourself first.
Absolutely.
And then things could happen that you might regret.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, regret. Now that's a big word. That's a doom doom doom.
Dun 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 dun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, what is regret? What is, yeah.
Well, regret is a dirty word, really. Let's just put that out there because first of all, I personally think that whole premise of no regrets or living a life with no regrets is false, and it puts way too much pressure on people. Because
Absolutely.
yeah, because I think it's pretty much impossible to live a life with no regrets.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And the thing about regrets and is it's such a personal thing.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot, no one person can't really say what another person's regrets could be because it's your choices. It's your personal behavior or choice in a situation. What we regret is what we did or what we didn't do, what we said or what we didn't say, the choices that we made in the moment. That's what we really regret. We think that it's like, well, all this bad stuff happened after I made that choice. But that's not what we're actually regretting. We're regretting making that choice.
Right. Right. So regret is a judgment, if you will, for lack of a better word,
Yep.
or a decision, or I'm not going to say a conclusion because you can change the way you frame it. So regret is, a judgment of something that you wish you did differently.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. And the thing I have discovered, because I often say, yeah, I have no regrets. But that's in that moment. And then something else might happen. My life might go in a different direction. And for a little while, or a longer while, I do have a regret. The thing about also regrets is that they don't last forever.
They don't last forever.
No, you can, and obviously, saying that someone might think, well, if I made that choice, when I was 20 years old, when I'm 50, it's not going to change that choice that I made. And that's right. Nothing's going to change that choice that you made in that moment. But what can happen is that you feel differently about that choice. And that's where the regret lives. How you feel about the choice that you made.
That's so true. That's so good. That's so good. And I remember, personal example. Oh no, you're going to get a tattoo. When you're old, you're going to regret it.
Yeah.
Right? And you know what? I don't. And I'm old. I don't regret it.
Yeah, that's predicting regrets, which is
Yeah,
it's that's it, it's that is almost so like ridiculous. Like, how can you predict a regret? Um,
exactly.
but yeah, and regrets are the reason that they're so scary and heavy is it's really just like the fear and the shame and the guilt that's often tied up to that thing that we did, that choice that we made, that thing that we said, and that's what ties us up in knots inside, and we're like, oh man, I really regret doing that. And it's also very, it can be very lonely.
Yeah. Sad, right? Disappointment. I was looking up some of the definitions for it, and interestingly, of course, sorrow, makes sense to me. Remorse, but here's an interesting one: repentance. So that word makes me feel like you're beginning to break the shell that you were holding that in, and then you can begin to shift it into, because regret is just something that we're thinking about in a certain way that's holding us in what? Is it holding us in pain? Is it holding us in sorrow? Is it holding us in guilt? And if we're going to resolve that in 20 years, could we resolve it sooner?
That's a great question, and I'm right off the top of my head, I'm going to say yes. Yeah, absolutely. Regret is, and I've heard this a few times, and I think it's really, really true. Regret is really an invitation towards gratitude.
Oh, I love that. Regret is an invitation toward gratitude.
Yeah. And it might seem like, wait, what? But looking back at something that you did that you might regret now and go, oh man, if you kind of step back and look at the bigger picture, it's quite possible that you're going to see the lessons that you learned from that.
Yes.
The other things that happened in your life because of that choice. Like maybe you made a choice that closed a door for you and you feel like, wow, maybe I should have taken that job, or, maybe I should have moved across country for that relationship, or, maybe I should have bought that car or whatever. And so it feels like a closed door, like a missed opportunity. But it's also an invitation to step back and go, but look at all the other things that I've been able to do, or that happened, or that I learned. I'm a better person now than I was at that moment that I was making that choice. So you can slowly shift that into gratitude, and that regret dissolves.
That's so good. And sometimes you could regret things that happened to you, right? And not necessarily something you did, but things that happened to you. And I love what you said before we began the call was that you really can't regret what anybody else did.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah. Regret. That's why I said it can feel very lonely, because it's all about you. It's so personal within you. You cannot regret something that someone else did. You can resent it.
It's true.
You can be pissed at them. You can, feel all these other feelings that you got to work through, but you can't regret a choice that someone else made.
Right. And just going back to what you said before, that regret is an invitation for gratitude. And I would think, that's not linear, because there's a lot of things. So, there's a lot of things in between the line between regret and achieving gratitude, because you have to then go through the process of, looking at the good things that did come as a result of it. Maybe forgiving yourself. I mean, are you holding on to regret for something that you said when you were in high school? I mean, who deserves to hold themselves stuck in that kind of pain for that long? No one.
No one. You're right.
Nobody.
Yeah. And it's again a beautiful way of bringing love back to yourself. Sometimes we're kind of conditioned to not go back and look at our regrets, again, because we're supposed to live a life with no regrets. So
Right.
it's like if we have those little regrets sitting on, on the shelf in a dusty closet that we haven't opened in years, it's like, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go look there. But actually, if you go back and you look there, what you might find is that you're no longer judging yourself that way for that choice. You might actually be in a place where you can say, you know what? That might have been pretty messed up at the moment, but at that moment, I made the best choice that I possibly could at that moment.
Yes.
There was nothing else that I could have chosen at that moment. Hindsight being what it is, now I could see it differently, but at that moment, that's the only choice that I had. And therefore, like you said, all of a sudden you realize I can forgive myself.
Right.
And wow, does that feel good.
Oh, it feels so good.
And
feels
now,
so good.
yeah, and now you can take that to the next step and be like, wow, you know what? Now I'm really grateful that things happened the way they happened, because I feel really good now about myself.
Yes. Yes. So you know what? I mean, it really is. I think I was just reaching for words, but it really is a judgment that we're holding against ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
If you really look at it, okay, you were 14 and you did that, and I so regret it. I mean, so embarrassing, or so so disruptive.
Or so
whatever
cruel.
the consequence was.
Or so cruel.
So cruel, right? Right. But if we lift the lid off of judgment, and look at the little kid that was scared or angry or whatever that reacted, I mean, that's such a beautiful way to look at it. So you reframe it and move into forgiveness, right? Move into finding the benefit in it, the beauty in it, even, if you will, because like you always say, Lil, life is not always smooth. Life is, sometimes really messy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But there's so much beauty either in the mess or in cleaning up the mess.
There is beauty. If we could only see the beauty in the mess while we're in the mess, how great would that be?
That would be fantastic. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about in our last love sessions. It's focus.
Yeah. That's true.
Right? If we focus on the fun that we're having, even though it's a little messy, or the good feeling that's happening as a result of learning new things about yourself, right? Because that's always bittersweet. Yeah, I think I just derailed us. I'm sorry.
No, actually,
I go back to regret.
No, you said something, focus on learning new things about ourselves. And I think that's one of the things that our regrets really gives us, that gift of learning new things about ourselves. Going back, let's reiterate, we cannot regret something that someone else did. So It's not about going back and, reliving, something horrible that somebody did to us, or a really bad experience that we had because of someone else's choices. That's not what we're talking about here at all. We're talking about our personal regrets. So being able to go back and look at something that we regret, something painful for us that brings up that shame and guilt and all this stuff, and see it in a different way really lets us learn more about ourselves. Like you just said,
so
which
good.
is, always kind of, I think as humans, we're always on that quest, learning more about who am I, what am I, why am I,
Yes.
And that our regrets give us that opportunity.
And, okay, so if we lived a life with no regrets, we would never take any chances. We would never push past our boundaries. We would never go outside of the box.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's regrettable.
That's regrettable. Boom.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Aww. So I love what you said about that. I mean, regret keeps us in a holding pattern.
Yeah.
Right?
They keep us stuck.
And when I think of regret, I think of such a sinking feeling in my gut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what that twisty ugly, twisted in knots kind of feeling. That's what, for most people, they bring up, like, oh, that thing that I did. Regret feels powerless.
Yes.
And what I think what we're trying to show, shine a light on here is that it actually can be empowering.
That's the invitation for gratitude.
Yes.
That's beautiful. So if we're in regret, how do we begin? I mean, I guess just, recognizing that you're in regret instead of just being whipped around by the feelings. I mean, that's huge, right? That's the beginning of the change.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really is, it's like almost the visual. It really is like one thing at a time, like open that door and take one tiny thing off the shelf. You don't have to attack all the regrets that you had in your life at once. Just pick one little thing and take a look at it. And maybe see, like, could I have really made a different choice at that moment? Well, maybe, but maybe not.
Maybe not.
And just giving yourself the chance to look at it and giving yourself the opportunity to forgive yourself.
That's so good. Give yourself the opportunity to forgive yourself.
Yeah. Start with one little thing at a time. And before you know it, you probably could hang out there for a little while and say, I have no regrets. I have no regrets. But be warned that if you're living a full life and experiencing everything that we are here to experience, you're probably going to have other regrets coming up in the future. Just hopefully now you can go through them without so much fear and without so much shame and really just process them.
And process them a lot quicker.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or be so in the moment that you go, if I say this, am I going to regret it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Catch yourself. Yeah. And, I had a massive regret that it was so big. I actually worked with a hypnotherapist for it because, and it was about putting one of my animals, down because he was so sick. And, you tend to forget. When you're in regret, you tend to forget everything that happened leading up to it, like how bad the animal really, really was suffering. And you only think about the action that you took, and I was so deep in regret that I really needed, somebody to help me to go into, the subconscious mind to remember, the compassion that led up to that act and, the act of love that really, really, really was. And now I have no regrets. Yeah.
No. And that's something, it sounds like you were punishing yourself for actually doing an act of love.
I was. And I forgot that it was an act of love and I was making myself bad, and I mean, I'm a nurse, of course, but when I'm a nurse and it comes to animals, that just all goes away.
Yeah.
I turn into a mush ball. So, but you're right, Lil, I was doing that. So,
And so many of us have done that and live with that.
Yeah. I say everybody sweep out the regret closet today.
That's, one little one at a time. Just start letting them go.
Yeah, and I love how you you always stress baby steps.
Yes.
That's so perfect. So perfect.
Yes. It's important to remind people because you and I know as coaches, we take people through steps, one step at a time. They might want to go from here to there, in one shot, and it's really not possible.
Right. And I'll give a really practical example. When I would run, when I would coach people physically for their body, and I would be teaching them how to run, I would 98% of the people, I have to grab their shirt because they wanted to take off sprinting, and I'm taking the back of their shirt, and I'm like, let's go slow, otherwise you're going to regret that. And you'll never love running. You'll never love running if you do too much, if you take too many steps, if you try to sweep the closet out all at once. It's not going to feel as good as it can really feel, and you're not going to get the benefit or the resolution or the good feeling of enjoying the benefit of what you're doing for yourself, bringing that love back to you.
Exactly. That is exactly it, because the whole point of this whole topic is not to have no regrets. Yes, that's almost like a byproduct, like the frosting on the cake. That's not the point to sweep out the whole closet, like you said. It's to give yourself the gift of each one of those little moments that you can stop and go, wow, you know what? I wasn't so bad. I can forgive that. I can get rid of that. I can be grateful for that. Those little pearls, those little diamonds, those little special moments, and you're going to miss them.
Yeah.
If you go full sprint, you're going to totally miss them.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Aw, I don't regret this conversation.
Me either.
Me either. Thank you, Lil.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you next week for another Love Sessions.
Bye-bye.
Bye.